would you do if someone threatened your mother? What would you do if someone threatened the only person who ever protected you? My mother came to this country with nothing but a suitcase and worked her fingers to the bone so I could have everything. I haven't met her expectations yet because I'm not literally the president, but I have a decent job stocking shelves at Target while I get through college. And my salary combined with what my mom makes at the medical supply factory means we can afford a small apartment together without too much stress. But last Tuesday when I got home from my shift, I found mom passed out on the couch still wearing her factory uniform with her work boots still on her feet. Her hands were so swollen they looked like latex gloves filled with water, and she had these dark circles under her eyes that made her look 20 years older. When I tried to wake her up, she jerked awake in total panic and started apologizing in broken English saying, sorry, I go back 1 hour, which made no sense because my mom doesn't speak English well and we never use it at home. She looked like she hadn't slept in weeks, and I didn't understand why because the bills were paid for that month and we were doing okay. I asked her if she needed money, if she needed me to pick up extra shifts, but she just shook her head and told me it was nothing. Her phone was buzzing nonstop with messages from someone saved as Mr. Phillips' boss, and when I grabbed it to turn it off, I saw texts saying things like back in 1 hour and don't make me call immigration, which made no sense because my mother has had her green card for 15 years. I scrolled through more messages and found photos of her actual green card that this Phillips guy had apparently taken and kept sending back to her with threats about calling ICE if she didn't come back for another shift. When I switched to Spanish and told her she was home and safe, she broke down crying and explained he's been making her work 16-hour shifts back to back, and if she says no, he tells her that her documents are fake and she'll be deported tomorrow. The thing about my mother is she believes anyone with authority because where she comes from, you don't question people in charge unless you want to disappear. She's been living in fear for 3 months thinking this man actually has the power to destroy our entire life with one phone call. I noticed the pile of energy drink cans overflowing from our trash and a prescription bottle on the counter with someone else's name on it that turned out to be Adderall she'd been taking just to stay awake during these insane shifts. The next morning I called in sick to work and drove to the factory, which was this gray building surrounded by barbed wire that looked more like a prison than a workplace. The security guard wouldn't let me past the front desk, so I waited in the parking lot until lunch break when workers started stumbling out into the daylight. They moved like those videos you see of people coming out of underground mines, holding onto each other and squinting at the sun, and almost all of them were clearly immigrants. I recognized a woman from my mother's church and asked her in Spanish what was really going on in there. She looked terrified and whispered that Phillips makes certain workers do doubles and triples by keeping their documents locked in his office safe and threatening to call immigration whenever anyone complains. She said he specifically targets people who don't speak English well, and my mother works more hours than anyone because she never fights back. Your mother worked 36 hours straight last weekend, and he made her stand the entire time, she said, before basically running away from me. I walked straight through those doors, and nobody stopped me, because I guess I looked like I belonged there with my angry face and determined walk. Phillips was in this glass office overlooking the factory floor, counting a stack of cash at his desk like some cartoon villain. When I told him I was Elena's daughter, he actually smiled and said, the one who's going to college, your mom talks about you all the time, like we were having a friendly conversation. I asked him why my mother had been working 16-hour shifts, and he leaned back in his chair still grinning and said, your mother is very dedicated to her job, and we appreciate workers who understand the value of hard work around here. I told him I knew about the deportation threats, and that keeping someone's documents and threatening them with ICE was super illegal. His whole expression changed, and he stood up and got right in my face close enough that I could smell the cigarettes on his breath. You know what's illegal is forging documents to enter this country, which is what I'll tell ICE your mother did if you don't get out of my office right now, he said, even though we both knew he was lying. I pulled out my phone to record him, but he grabbed it and threw it against the wall where it shattered into pieces. Tell your mother she better be here for her shift tonight, or I'll have her on a plane back to Guatemala by morning, he said, even though my mother is from El Salvador, which showed he didn't even know basic facts about the people he was terrorizing. Through the glass, I could see dozens of workers bent over their stations moving like robots, and I recognized at least 5 more faces from our neighborhood, all looking exhausted and defeated. I knew exactly what I had to do to end this. I was going to destroy him completely. Full story on the channel below.